Boy, oh boy, the PSX thingy that happened in this past
You get to talk about this one.
yeah. So okay, so let me just go real quickly what they particularly announced about at PSX, and there isn't much really, honestly, but here's what they announced: Wipeout Omega Collection, Donut Country, Blaze. Well, yeah, they showed it. Blaze Blue Cross Talk Battle was the same trailer from Evo. Jupiter and Mars, which is Echo the Dolphin, but in VR. Monster Hunter World, a new trailer for that. Return, or they're gonna remaster Medieval, which I'm actually pretty excited about. That's really cool. Rick and Morty Virtual Reality, Guns of Icarus Alliance, Shooty Fruity, Icon Class, Fantasy Strike, and Knockout League. And those were all that were announced. And let me preface this to say that people at Sony were saying prior to the press conference to the event on Friday, saying lower your expectations. They didn't particularly word it that. Yes, they did say that, but people were a bit confused when they meant lower your expectations, because in years prior past, the PSX that when Sony held had bombastic announcements and everything just going out the wazoo when it come to new stuff coming out and surprises here and there. This year at the PSX, what they did is they had some of the developers come on stage and talk to the host that was hosting the whole thing, and they would maybe show like a new trailer for 3 or 4 during the press conference or during the event. But for 90% of the time, they had people, the developers, come in and talk about their game and other questions regarding the development and whatnot. So it was a podcast for the most part. And I don't get me wrong, I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to what developers think about the development of their game and what they're at and what they're planning to do. Especially hearing Hideo Kojima's weird ass head as far as like what he thinks of his game is going to be. But at the same time, you have 10,000 people in that one arena on edge and needles waiting for something huge to happen. And when they started to realize that this is going to be it, they were starting to walk out in droves. And me and other people that were watching, like, to give in mind, yes, Sony did say lower expectations, but you didn't say this is going to be more of a conversation with the developers. If that was the case, I would not have tuned in. I think that majority of people would probably not even be there in that arena, to watch that. So yeah, it was bad. It was. Aside from that, it was. I mean, the whole event for PSX on Friday was bad. I'm pretty sure people who were there had a ton of fun, especially with Capcom Cup ended today. Which again, huge announcements they made for Street Fighter 5, and the tournament itself was insanely good. But I think people who were there had a fun time probably during the PSX show floor. Not less per se this kind of kickoff event for the entire weekend. But that being said, with everything I just said, though, I am excited about the things they did announce. Like, I'm really excited for Medieval. That is a game that I played back then on the PS1. I didn't quite finish it, but from the time I played it was really fun to play. And I'm glad that they're just basically doing a remaster, same way as Crash Bandicoot. So I cannot wait for that. I am excited for Soul Calibur 6. They showed off more new footage of Soul Calibur 6. They even had like a 10-minute demo with the developer in an interview regarding the mechanics and everything else, and they showed off more stuff, which is really cool to see. Outside of that, like, most of the stuff I'm excited for came out of the Game Awards, but there's definitely some cool stuff I'm looking forward to for 2018. 2018 is gonna be another year, but as Greg, I know you were streaming that night, but
Making a mistake in reading about people like shitting on the Ready Player One trailer. Anyway.
yeah, saw that. Well, saw a picture of that, but you go on.
Sorry, it's two dumb opinions. It sucks because it's nostalgia, or it sucks because something. Anyway.
Yeah.
Looking at things reasonably and logically is not a thing, apparently. So I didn't watch a whole lot of the PSX. I just, like not having a PlayStation, and I was streaming that night too, which didn't help. But um, which actually was one of the best streams I've had in a long time.
Actually, your stream is probably much more entertaining than the PSX, honestly.
I'll put it this way: I need to go back and find find the long clips from each. Hey Josh, from my stream that night and make a montage and then show you, and then you could tell me if it's better. But I did go back and I watched them show the gameplay from God of War, and good lord, I was like, can we just watch the gameplay? Why are you talking over it? Why is the camera zoomed out where like I kind of see the footage there because it's too dark, and I see people like figureheads talking, like what's happening? Like it was so weird. I was like, this is not good. But I mean, then again, like to a certain extent, Sony wasn't there, I feel like, to have a good press conference. This is the PlayStation experience isn't necessarily the conference. It's the whole event. It's the whole convention, if you will.
Yeah.
And like you could go back and I think if you go onto the PlayStation itself, or if you go onto like their website, you can actually see the gameplay footage they showed during PSX without anybody talking over it, which is really nice. But I get how like the conference itself was boring. I think they did an awesome job at like kind of showcasing some stuff that they are working on, that they have coming, and I think it's really cool that Medieval is getting more love.
Yeah, definitely.
I really hope that the controls are better this round, because I kind of feel like the classic controls suck. But I think that's mostly because of camera too.
Yeah, nostalgia blinds me, but like, what were the controls for Medieval? Was it 10 controls?
It was 10 controls in a third-person perspective.
Oh, okay.
So like to turn, you had to just hit left or right on the D-pad, and then it was basically forward. It was 10 controls, but not fun, not super fun.
Yeah.
So like a better control scheme would be really nice, but maybe better camera. I'll say this much: every time they show more and more of the new Shadow of the Colossus,
yeah, that game looks so good.
I'm like, it's just a remaster, not a big deal, blah blah. And I'm just like, I want to play that new version.
Yeah, it's like you play the remaster, we'll play this remaster. It is like in 4D, man. It's graphically just enhanced to hell. It's so good. It looks so good. It's insane how much work they've done to that game.
I like it's nuts. Like I will say this: something that kind of bothers me a little bit is how much Monster Hunter is getting PlayStation love when I know that it's coming to Xbox.
Yeah, I could see why. It's an interesting thing. I'm assuming because, well, to be fair, Microsoft has. Thank you for the host, by the way. Jesus.
Oh shit! Nice.
So I was gonna say, like, the thing about that is that Sony has a better foothold when it comes to Monster Hunter. Well, I should say Monster Hunter has a better foothold in Japan when it comes to sales. And Microsoft never really sold well in Sony to begin with.
Oh, I understand that.
So, like,
you meant Japan, by the way. You said Microsoft didn't sell well in Sony.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry. So that definitely factors into it. So
I get it. I get all of that. I don't want to say Japanesey because that sounds a little racist, but it's very popular in Japan. Like
yes, Monster Hunter is Monster Hunter is huge in Japan.
But there's a reason behind it. Like there's a huge reason behind why it's more popular in Japan than it is here, and that's because it doesn't look like Monster Hunter World.
Exactly.
Like it looks way more cartoonish in previous versions. This is the first one that looks as real as this one does.
Yes.
Which is going to make it a huge sell for a ton of people.
Previous Monster Hunter games were held back by the technology that they were released on 3DS, the Wii U, PSP. Like they were on handhelds and consoles that weren't graphically powered. Now to the fact that they're going to be expanding it to other consoles and PC, it looks damn good. Like,
Oh yeah. I mean, like, I'm excited to play it. I
oh,
like when I
same
say I'm
here.
sad. When I say I'm sad that it's getting a lot of PlayStation love, is like I want to play the damn beta.
Yeah, same here. Same here. As somebody who used to have a PS4 and doesn't have any more, I would like to play the beta too. I was actually watching a streamer called Maximilian, dude, who was playing it with his friends last night on his stream, and my God, it was the hypest thing I have ever watched in a while because they were figuring out on the fly like what the route with the monster was going to be. They were starting to get better with their weapon craft as far as like how much damage they were putting out, what exactly they needed to do. Like the cool thing about this game is like if you're hunting a monster of any kind, if you're in an area within other monsters, there could be a scenario where you're hunting this monster and other monsters just winds up attacking, just like you see in the trailer, winds up attacking the other monster. It becomes Godzilla all of a sudden. It's like, holy shit, this is insane. It's so good.
That's not new to Monster Hunter World. Like that's been in other Monster Hunter games. Like I used to watch a guy that's really good friends with Half Empty, or at least he was. I don't know if he still is. I mean, I imagine they're still friends. His name was Hot Sammy Sliz, and he made his Twitch career off of playing Monster Hunter games on his channel. Like that's what he played 90% of the time. And I used to watch him play quite consistently, and there were moments where like another monster would attack a monster they're going after. The difference here in those games versus this one is that this makes it look a lot more epic. This Monster Hunter World makes it look so much more epic. And I hear that the frequency of it is a lot higher too.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, Monster Hunter is it is a grind game. Like it's designed to be that. You have tasks, you have to complete those tasks.
Yep.
And a lot of it has to do through grinding to get stronger, to get better armor. You have to complete these and kill monsters to get that. So going into it, you have to know that, and I think that most of the people that are excited about it are getting into it. I too feel really, really bad for Dauntless. Because if you heard about Dauntless, Dauntless was basically a Monster Hunter game that was on Xbox, and it looked really cool, and I'd still like to maybe check it out one day, but unfortunately, when the company comes out and says, "Oh, we have a better looking version of the game that you're making, it's a version of our game," you lose. Like you just lose immediately.
Yeah, definitely. The game looks great. Like I'm actually tempted to jump in with this one when the PC version comes out. Because man,
I mean, I would because I know that you are. You're not super into like, oh, I have to have 60 frames a second, but I guarantee you this game will be locked at 30 frames a second on console.
Yeah, I think so. I remember I was watching when Max was playing it. He saw like because he also does other stuff in the industry as well. And he pointed out that the game on the beta, at least right now, is kind of in between 30 and 60, like 30, 40 frames per second. So it's not like. It's better than 30 frames, but it's kind of in between. So it's not locked.
Is he playing on PlayStation Pro?
Yes. I want to say yes. Yes. Yeah.
That might have a huge factor into it because I know that like a lot of games like that I'm playing with my friends, they're playing on their Xbox One X and they're getting 60 frames while I'm getting 30. So that might be a huge thing.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, well, regardless, it is
for me, Jesus, what you just said, it's perfect for people who love the Soul series. I would love the Soul series more if it was multiplayer, and this is like up to 4, I think.
Are you talking about Dark Souls?
I'm talking about Monster Hunter.
Oh, okay.
Like I like that it's multiplayer.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I like that I can hop in with friends and play.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Because I've talked about grinding in games before and how like the grind can suck if the game's grind isn't fun. if I have to keep doing the same thing over and over and it gets super repetitive to the point that I'm bored, like I'll give you an example of something that looks fun, but the grind is very boring. And that's when Overwatch does their Halloween event, or when they did their Uprising event. Like, it became to the point where I memorized where all the spawns were, and I knew exactly how to take them out, and it never changed it up. It never became something new or different. So it got boring. Something I'll give Destiny 2, the DLC that just came out, like people are shitting on it, but I liked it a lot. But one of the things I really like about it is that there's things you do in Destiny called strikes. That's not new. But there's a new strike that you have to do by going into the simulated past. And to do this, you have to go through like a gauntlet of like a virtual reality gauntlet sort of thing. And the map changes every time you do it. So you never know what platforms you're going to get. You never know what enemies you're going to get. It always is changing and adjusting. So every time you play that strike, it's always going to be different. Which is awesome. And from what I understand when it comes to Monster Hunter, that's absolutely the case. Monsters, if you have to hunt the same monster twice, the monster isn't going to take the same path. It's not going to take the same route, and you might not have the same experience fighting that monster twice. A game can have simple mechanics, especially a game that's a grindy game. It can have very simple mechanics, but if you're doing the same thing over and over to the point where it's just a boring, like you're just doing it without thinking, like it becomes second nature, like that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fun. I mean, it might be fun for somebody, but it's certainly not fun for me. So
from what I watch, it looks super fun, and the grind looks super awesome. The one thing I want to touch on regarding the PSX is the rumor that we talked about in last week's show was that Devil May Cry 5 might have has been leaked regarding some information regarding it, but the question is where exactly it was going to be announced. The leak did say that it was very unlikely that it was going to be announced at PSX and that it will be announced at E3. Lo behold, that's what happened. Nor the Game Awards or the PSX had anything on Devil May Cry 5, which leads me to believe that that's going to be announced at E3 next year, if the leak is true, that is. And if it is, then yay, Devil May Cry 5. And what I've read and heard is going to be the most ambitious Devil May Cry game. And top of it, it's going to end the Son of Sparta arc, which means I guess this is going to be the last time we're going to see Dante and his crew. So, but yeah, that particular rumor was shut down after we saw what happened. Outside of that, like not much anything else for us, like big leaks wise. I had to go back, and there was somebody who did put down a list of leaks for Dragon Ball Z Fighters and Soul Calibur 6, and I wanted to go back and check if that was right compared to what they've shown so far in the trailers. Because at PSX they showed an extended cut of Soul Calibur 6, where you see a young Mitsurugi versus a young Sophia, who were in battle. They're fighting each other, and there's some things that the developer had said in the Game Awards that were taken from Tekken into Soul Calibur 6, including they didn't say it, but it looks like that the slow-mo mechanic is going to be in Soul Calibur 6. That there were other things that they were working on as far as
I clearly didn't play enough Soul Calibur 5 because I have no idea what the slow-mo mechanic is.
It's in Tekken 7. So in Tekken 7, okay,
I know what you're talking about because I've seen it in Tekken.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, in Tekken 7, the way it works is like if two characters are fighting each other and they're very low in health, if they are doing the move at the same time, they'll go to slow motion and it'll slow it down to where the last hit will hit and somebody dies. And it's really hype and it's really awesome. From the trailer they showed on Soul Calibur 6 and the extended cut on PSX, it looks like it'd be the same thing in Soul Calibur 6, which is cool. It's really hype as hell to have that in there. But there's not much to really go off of what they've shown so far, but it looks good. I'm excited to see what they put in there. I'm really curious as far as what guest characters are they going to put in Soul Calibur 6. That's going to be hype. I cannot wait. People are saying to put 2B in the game, which I'm all in favor for. That happens. So, but outside of that, you know, PSX event, not at least the first Friday, wasn't that great. You know, people who were there probably had more fun there walking the show floor and watching Capcom Cup. But outside of that, yeah, Game Awards.
I would certainly say that the reaction that I've seen on the internet, people agree with you. So
yes, indeed. All right, guys. So it looks like it's. Oh, I need to set this up actually. Give me a second here. While I set this up, so Greg, mingle with the chat. What's the word looking for? Ad lib.
Hey, Chad, how's it going? Hey, guys, again, if you are here live, we after the main recording of the podcast, we do a like up to 30 minutes. We can go longer post show where we talk about things we didn't get to touch on, go more in depth with what our thoughts were on certain things that maybe we didn't get to talk about that much. We try to keep the podcast to an hour, so we would definitely want to do a post show sort of thing to kind of just talk to you guys and for people who are listening to the podcast. Try to come live to the show because we do interact with the chat as much as possible. And we'd love to hear your guys' opinions on it.
Yep. All right. So, hang on a second, guys.